Thanks so much, Jeff, and welcome everybody. My name's Matt Payne from AmeriCorps in our marketing department, and we're so thrilled to have you all today. We have a jam-packed session, but before we jump in, if you go to the next slide, Jeff, we have a warm-up prompts for everybody to get the chat up and running. What are some of the creative ways you have engaged your National Service members and alumni to share their service stories on social media? What tips or creative ideas have worked for you? We'd love to see those getting the chat up and running. And Jeff, if you can go to the next slide. So we have a really great roundup of folks on the call today for you all. Teamwork makes the dream work, and there's a ton of great people engaged in our What's Your Core campaign that are making this a success. So we're excited for you to hear from them. From the AmeriCorps team, we have Shri Kulkarni, our Chief of External Affairs, who you'll hear from in just a second. Myself, Matt Payne. We have Anastasia Sonneman, our Social Media Manager. Sam Warfield, our Senior Media Relations Manager. We also have partners from GMMB, the creative agency that AmeriCorps partnered with for this campaign. So you'll hear today from Philip Allen, Laura Orozco, and Krista Reichel. And we also have the Causeway Agency, which is our new partner this year for the state commissions on the phone that are really interested in those state-based PSAs. We have a session at the end of the call for you all, and Causeway will be walking you through that. And from there, we have Megan Dellinger and Matt Engert. So we'll jump to the next slide. So we'll be walking through the campaign overview and give you an update on how it's performing. We're gonna have GMMB talk to you a little bit about the inspiration behind the campaign and the creative concept that we've deployed. I'm gonna walk you through our toolkit that is really designed to make sure that this is a success locally for you all, and has those resources that you need to recruit and spread the message about service. We'll talk through some social media engagement opportunities and press opportunities, and then we'll have a Q&A session. And at about the 40-minute mark, we're gonna have only our state commission partners stick around for an overview of our state commission PSA program, as well as tips for doing outreach and reporting and Q&A there as well. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Shri Kulkarni.
Hi, Matt. It's good to be with you all. I think someone needs to let me unmute my video because it does not allow me to get on video. But hi, everyone. I'm Shri Kulkarni, your Chief of External Affairs here at headquarters at AmeriCorps. And I'm very excited today to give you a high-level overview and an update about the current recruitment campaign, What's at Your Core, which tries to elicit people's core values of what drives them to serve. The campaign is going on right now, and we want to share with you what you can do to help us make this campaign a success and to amplify service within your own communities. So the overall goal of the campaign, as you can see here, is to raise awareness of and drive recruitment for AmeriCorps members and volunteers with the entire public, especially diverse and underrepresented populations. So there's a key here. This is for every single market across the country, all of our programs. And so everything that you're doing will help with recruitment across the board. And some of the tactics that we've been using are to recruit social media influencers and to have co-branded ads. But we've heard from many of our partners that recruitment continues to be a challenge, especially this year as we try to get past the pandemic. And with the strengthening job market, we're stepping up to provide support and resources to make sure that you are able to do the kind of recruitment that you need to do in this environment. So the first step to recruitment is awareness. And we here are taking action to do more of this national promotion and tell a unified story under our new brand, which is going to help every single one of you, our partners. This campaign was literally designed with you in mind, which is why we built customizable resources, which my team is going to walk through in a minute. Now, I do want to give you a little bit of an update on how the campaign is going to this point. To date, this is our most successful campaign PSA ever in the history of AmeriCorps. It's already been viewed more than 7 million times, breaking the record of AmeriCorps most viewed video by 4 times. It's driven 137,000 sessions to our website. And overall, the campaign has been seen by more than 56 million Americans. And a lot of this is paid distributions that we're investing in right now, which are going to continue all the way through August. But you'll also note, if you look at the bottom of the slide here, we've included the logos of some of the diverse channels that we're leveraging right now to tell AmeriCorps story, because we don't want to just be in the same communities. We want to be getting out to new communities and spreading this message of national service to new areas where it hasn't been in the past. And if you see on the next slide, the external affairs team has completed a small social media influencer pilot in an effort to break out of that echo chamber that we're in with AmeriCorps and our current environment and reach new audiences. So this diverse set of social media influencers encourage their own followers to join AmeriCorps. And those influencers pushed out content that was engaged with almost 5,000 times and seen by over 1 million people, significantly outperforming national metrics for influencer marketing. But the truth is, the most powerful influencers that we have are you. This campaign will not be successful just coming from headquarters. Its success depends on over 250,000 members and volunteers, over 1 million alumni, and every single one of our grantees, their friends, their family members, all sharing this material as much as possible as you can through September. So right now, you can go on your own Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, your other social media, share this PSA, and then you can encourage every single one you know to share it too. Secondly, you can help us identify members, volunteers, anyone who is interested in joining AmeriCorps as part of our influencer group. Lastly, our social media inbox, send your feedback, your suggestions, or anybody that you want to get involved with this internal influencer group to socialmedia@cns.gov. We want to hear from you. Like I said, this campaign only runs if you participate. I want to thank you so much, because we've already broken records together, but now we've got to go out and make sure that volunteering and national service become a permanent institution of American democracy. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our colleagues at GMMB and our team, who's going to walk you through the creative and the toolkit.
Thank you so much, Sri. This is Krista Reichel at GMMB, and we are really excited to share the campaign creative with you today. This creative is steeped in messaging that key audiences respond to based on message research that we conducted. In that message research, we found that leading with altruism is foundational to the language that resonates with audiences across the board. Additionally, strengthening communities is a powerful message, and one that you all do so well. And that message that homes in on your community needs you is really engaging. And finally, specificity is crucial in building familiarity and curiosity in AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps seniors. And as you can see, we've coupled those research findings with strong visuals and creative elements to shape a campaign focused on the passion brought to service by members and volunteers. So now Laura Orozco will talk a little bit more about the inspiration behind the creative, and Phil will jump in on the beautiful visuals that we have here as well. So I'll pass it to Laura.
Thanks so much, Krista. Hi, everyone. So as we were thinking about what we could do for a recruitment campaign for AmeriCorps, Phil and I were really thinking about the COVID-19 pandemic and how that's kind of prompted all of us to really look inward to a certain degree and think about, with everything happening in the world and everything crazy going on, what really matters to us? What are our values? What do we prioritize in our lives? And more importantly, how can we use those values to make the world a better place, especially in these times where that positive impact is really desperately needed in a lot of places. And so that's where we came up with this idea of what's at your core. So urging people to think about their values. And it's also kind of a nice play on words with what's at your core, AmeriCorps, so sort of strengthening and reinforcing the brand. And that's where we came up with this idea, again, urging people to look inside about what matters to them. And more importantly, giving them an avenue to put those values into action by serving with AmeriCorps. And you'll see these beautiful visuals that we've come up with, and I'll let Phil dive in a bit more deeply on that end.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Laura. And just as Laura mentioned, this is very much a campaign that dives deep into the why of the work, while also championing your members and your volunteers. We know that AmeriCorps seniors have a great diversity as far as age and ethnicity, and regions, and we want to be able to reflect that. We also know that despite all of our differences in culture and geography, whether that's suburban or rural or urban, we're all guided by this internal, what we're calling core values. And those values are more similar than what you may think, even given, how it can be reported that this country is fairly divided at this point. But we want this campaign to be something that everyone's able to respond to, everyone's able to relate to, very much a campaign that's unifying, that we can all get behind these particular core values. So while we're doing that, we felt very strongly that this campaign had to feel personal. If we're talking about the individual reasons why people are joining AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps seniors, we need to have visuals that reflect that as well. So that's why you'll see our photography that has portrait photography that really focuses in on a particular member or volunteer. That's why you'll see our type treatments very much reflect something that feels handcrafted, whether that's illustrations around the type or whether it's type that just feels a little bit hand-drawn or hand written. And we want to be able to show that a little bit more intimateness of what our campaign could be. We also wanted to make sure that we brought those individual values and really brought them up front, whether that's the determination or equity or compassion, but also connect that to the work that AmeriCorps seniors is doing, so that anyone in the audience can say, okay, yes, compassion is something that's really important to me. And now I fully understand that this is something that I can use and utilize to affect the community or my neighbors around me, or how determination can really play a big part in fighting for climate change and protecting their local parks. So we very much wanted that to be something that felt front and center with when we were doing this particular campaign. We also wanted to make sure that that campaign didn't just stay in the assets that we built. We wanted to make sure that this campaign could be used in a much wider context across all of the different focus areas and programs that you all are providing. And so I'm going to hand it off to Matt to talk a little bit more about the toolkit and how to do that.
Great, thanks, Phil, and appreciate the background. I am going to take over screen sharing and give everybody a quick walkthrough of our digital toolkit. We're really excited to be launching this year a new social press kit platform, getting out of those cumbersome PDF toolkits to provide something that's hopefully a little easier for everybody to download resources and get ready to share content that you can customize for your programs, your states, and your needs. So this is the social press kit. For those that haven't seen it yet, we'll paste this link in the chat in just a second here, but you'll see at the top all the different social accounts that we hope everybody is following, and then our campaign, which has all those built out social graphics with our key member features this year. We're excited to have a bunch of new photography available to incorporate into the campaign. Again, as has been mentioned, making sure that we're reflecting the diversity in our core, as well as the diversity we want to see in our future core. So you've got social media posts for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram that are all built out here that you can download and do one-click sharing. In the second tab, in social media videos, similarly, you can download those videos and craft posts for your own channels. And those are all available here. And the third tab, the helpful materials section, has a link to our Flickr photo gallery where we've put in all those selects for from the campaign. So hopefully folks are utilizing those. We know that, you know, with the new AmeriCorps brand that rolled out last year, that there's not a ton of photos with new branding, and so it's something that we are continuing to build, and we'll build with you all as well. A box folder where you can download the videos if you have other uses or needs for the actual files. Member and volunteer interview guides, where GMMB has helped us put together some really great questions that you can use to inspire interviews with your alumni or your members to create more social content and really get their story packaged in a way that connects to this campaign and strikes at that why behind their service. And then we have customizable templates for you to create social content. So that kind of looks like this. So to Scott's point in the chat, for those that want to, you know, make sure the photography is reflecting your state or your project, you can come in here and swap out photos with your members and update the text that relates to their story. We know that not everybody will be able to have it as beautifully glossy and designed as the national GMMB ads, but we wanted to make sure you guys could customize that to your needs. And then we also have a PSA guide, which has a link to a website that was just built that you can direct local media partners to our national PSAs, and state commissions will hold till later in the call to chat through what it looks like for your customized version. So that's our social press kit. Again, I'll drop this in the chat, and hopefully folks continue to utilize that, and email us if you have any questions or further recommendations for content that would be helpful there. So I will stop sharing, and Jeff, if you can get us back on the slide, and I will pass it over to my colleague, Anastasia, who runs social media for AmeriCorps, and is going to talk you through how some folks are already amplifying the campaign on social.
Hi guys, thanks so much, Matt. So today I wanted to quickly walk you guys through two really great opportunities that I wanted to share that would allow you guys to leverage this campaign to really generate that increased awareness, as well as recruitment in the communities where your programs and organizations are serving by way of organic social media content. So that's, you know, as opposed to paid or promoted. So I'm going to briefly go through these. The first is I have two slides on how you can do this through engagement. And by that, I mean engagement with social media posts that we're sharing from the main AmeriCorps account. So this is great because it's a lower lift for you guys. You don't need to, you know, create additional content, but it's still really effective, and it will really, you know, help us amplify this campaign. So as you can see here, I've included two examples of that showcase that really recently, especially when we share posts to amplify this campaign on the AmeriCorps social feeds, we often include a question or prompt that urges, that's circled, as you can see here in the green and purple, that is urging members, alumni, and others who are part of our broader AmeriCorps network to share their story as a way to inspire others. So by encouraging your current AmeriCorps members, alumni, staff, and even community members to respond to these prompts in the comments or by sharing the posts and adding on their, you know, their own stories to the shared content. That's one of the best ways to get the campaign message out there and really to make it effective. And that's because, you know, as I'm sure you guys know, people trust information that's coming from their peers, their community members, and other individuals who look and sound like them way more than anything coming from an organizational account. Plus, the more comments and shares a post gets from individual accounts, the more likely they are to reach new audiences that don't follow us or even your accounts, your own programmatic accounts, and that are not familiar with AmeriCorps. So it's, you know, the best way we could really get out of our insider baseball and get more folks on board and excited about service and making a difference in their community by unleashing what's at their core. So on the next slide, I feature another example of, again, this engagement opportunity. So another great way to amplify this campaign is by engaging with our social content from your own organizational accounts. So that includes both your national, you know, and more state or local programmatic accounts. So while individuals engaging and sharing their experiences by, you know, commenting and replying to our posts is by far the best way to relate and connect to new audiences. This type of engagement can really also help us reach more people, again, especially people in your local communities, you know, where your organization / affiliate partners and organizations are operating and making a difference. So again, I've added some examples of recent posts we've shared that offer up that opportunity where there are specific prompts urging folks to respond. But frankly, the post I shared in the previous slide would also work. So in this case, the only difference would be that instead of encouraging your individual stakeholders, for example, members, alumni, staff members, to share and respond, you would do it on their behalf using your organizational social accounts by either highlighting an individual story, general statistics, community impact, etc. So again, you can either do this in a reply, a comment, or by sharing the post to your feed with an added comment, for example, a quote tweet, an Instagram story, or by sharing a Facebook post or LinkedIn post. So remember, the more specific that you make the connection between the overarching message behind the What's at Your Core campaign to the actual AmeriCorps members, alumni, et cetera, who are making the difference in your community through your programs, the better. And another reminder would be the more accounts you tag in these types of replies or shared posts, the better, because again, that notifies whoever you're shouting out, whether it's a member, alumni, local partner, affiliate program, et cetera, they're gonna get a notification and they're gonna have more incentive to respond and keep the engagement going even further. So then finally, on the last slide, the final way I wanted to share an opportunity for you guys to help amplify this campaign is through original posts that are either from your organizational or from individual accounts, you know, that your members, that belong to your members, your alumni, staff, etc. So this opportunity requires, as you can imagine, a bit more effort and time on your part or whoever's creating the original content, but will also significantly help uplift the reach and the results we're able to generate through this campaign when it comes to driving awareness and also driving up our recruitment numbers, of course, across the country. And I noticed that a lot of you guys are, you know, shared at the beginning of the call in the prompt ways that you're already doing this. The only thing that you have to do in addition to, you know, all of the wonderful ways that you're already amplifying member stories, you know, whether it's a Member Monday or Why I Serve Wednesday, etc., is connecting it to the What's at Your Core message, you know, and I've included 3 different examples of stellar posts I've recently spotted where, you know, that's already happening, and a few programs that are already doing a great job. And even as you can see on the post from the Michigan State Commission, while they didn't necessarily tie it directly to the What's at Your Core campaign, it made it very easy for us to then repost it and tie it So as long as you're, again, you know, talking about the why behind service, or talking about how service is helping, you know, members, alumni, et cetera, make a difference by unleashing their passion, or really putting what matters to them, what's at their core, into action to make a difference, that's also great. But the more you can tie it back to the campaign, whether that's, you know, using the hashtag or incorporating it into the message, the better. Now, again, the best types of posts that, you know, this would include are those that feature real life people and connect, like I was saying, the what's at your core message to their personal experience. That by doing that, showcase how it's benefited them and their communities, both by, you know, the description you using the actual post, as well as the visual component, whether that's a photo, video, or a combination of both. So for today, that's what I'm going to be covering, but I'd like to refer you back to the slide 3 shared earlier about our social media contact email. I'd really like to encourage you to please reach out and use that email, not to just ask questions, but to share ideas, share your stories, even links to posts that you've published that you're like, hey, Anastasia, I did what you asked, or here's some posts, you know, that you guys can reshare. And that, you know, we will definitely do that. And I try to do that regularly. And then also, before Matt gets mad at me, I'm going to hand it back to you. Don't worry. I want to mention one thing. I did create a few more ideas on themes and messaging that I think will be useful, created to help, you know, you really frame that member, alumni, you know, staff experience and stories to connect the big ideas in this campaign to posts that really highlight your program, your members, your alumni, and incentivize your followers to engage with the posts you share. Okay, that's all from you guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it back to Matt.
We're actually passing it to Sam.
Thanks, Matt. I'll keep it short because I know there are likely a lot of questions and we have quite a bit to get to still. While this campaign is primarily focused on the digital, we wanted to think about a couple of ways to incorporate the theme into your media and other engagement efforts. So a couple of big buckets to think through here. The first is, you know, this idea of what's at your core. This theme poses a great kind of new and creative way to spotlight member stories. Maybe that means you are bringing in members to events or using them as a way, many of you have already shared this, that you're doing it on blogs and in your social media. But as you think about what you're pitching, that gives you a new angle to think about. This next one, I think, might be the biggest opportunity. I think we all know that getting media attention in a very busy media cycle sometimes means we have to get creative and make our own news. So that might include working with your network to write a series of op-eds about how AmeriCorps is at the core of your state. I think Minnesota does this every year as part of their recruitment activity. Might be recruitment. I know it's Minnesota, not quite sure if I remember what purpose they do it for, but they do a great job of placing these all around the state. And so that's one thought, right? You can engage your network, spread the workload around a little bit, and use the theme of what's at your core to place that story slightly different all around the state. You could take that same approach with a letter to the editor writing campaign, engage your alumni, your beneficiaries, all of those in your network, using that same theme. Get everyone telling their story in a slightly different way. So you're getting coverage, but without having to pitch every single story. I think generally national service, we're underutilizing op-eds and particularly letters to the editor for a field that so many people love. We should be tapping into that a little bit more. Next is to think about how to frame things you're already planning in a new way to incorporate a new element that might add a new hook. So for example, could you invite alumni to talk about how AmeriCorps is part of their core? Maybe you do this at your next event, or we're going into the fall, so that brings up inductions. Thinking about while that isn't, what's at your core isn't necessarily its own news, but could you use that theme to make something that you're already doing a pitchable event? Could you use that to build a hook into something you're already planning to do? And then lastly is remember to keep your pitches relevant and timely. So as we head into August, this is a perfect time to think about how to tell your back to school stories, or how to frame stories you need to tell in a back to school way. So if you're recruiting, that's news, especially if your members are going to be serving in schools. So thinking about how to frame your stories in a timely and relevant manner so that they're part of the conversation that's already happening. And that's it for me. And with that, I think I do turn it back to Matt.
Thanks, Sam. All right, so we are ready for Q&A. So if you have a question and haven't already put it in the chat, you can, or sorry, in the Q&A section, add it there and we can start answering them. We also have a closing prompt for the chat before we jump to our State Commission only section. Just a minute here. So for our grantees, what trainings or resources would be helpful from AmeriCorps in the future? We'd love to hear from you all there. And to that point, we did see one question a little bit earlier asking about legacy gear as it relates to our new brand. We're excited to say that in the coming months, there will be trainings put on by our department about branding and making sure that you guys have the resources that you need and the information that you need as we cycle into those terms and conditions going into effect with the new brand. So excited for more information there. I dropped in a note about legacy gear and what to do with it. There's pretty specific guidance as a federal agency when it comes to gear with our branding. So refer to that, but know that more is to come as conversations are happening with our legal team. We had another question, if the webinar will be recorded. Absolutely, we'll send that out. Let's see what else here. Cody asked a great question around the metrics and metrics around awareness and impressions and how those translate to applications and more butts and seats, as we often say. It's the million-dollar question. We know that we're still, analyzing our data. A lot of the data that we get from our state and national partners is self-reported. So what we get back from you all after the fact. So definitely keep us in the loop in terms of what you're seeing. As Sri mentioned, we know that the job market and the sort of ramping up the economy is affecting recruitment numbers, and so we're always monitoring that. But we know that the campaign is really the first step to getting people in the door. People don't see an ad and sign their life away to AmeriCorps in the same day. Typically, it takes time, and that's why this is a partnership. But for anybody that has conversion strategies that have worked for them locally, we'd love to hear about those. And again, we'll continue to provide resources on that front in the future and more trainings. Kay asked a great question. How long do these campaigns typically last? This campaign is about 3 or 4 months in terms of our paid outreach and the sort of national ads that we've bought with Hulu and Spotify and NPR. So those tend to be in about 3 to 4 month spurts. It will, however, last beyond that. So we anticipate this campaign, going for the next year, maybe year and a half. Again, because there's a lot we can do to get those materials out the door and our PSAs out in local media markets. So it's much more than what we're sort of doing at the national level. We'll continue this to squeeze all we can out of this campaign into the fall and into next spring until you see more from us. Any other questions? Encourage folks to add those to the Q&A section. We have a question in the chat, it looks like. State-based Broadcasters Association. Yes. State-based outreach is happening. We are, one of the tricky things about AmeriCorps being so decentralized and so many awesome partners helping us spread the word is making sure we're not tripping over each other when we're making the outreach to amplify our message. So this year we're partnering with our state commission friends, and they'll really lead the charge at the state level to get our PSAs pitched and distributed. So we know everybody has relationships across the board, but encourage folks to work with their state commissions if they have contacts or ins or ways that they want to help amplify on a state level. Same goes for us on a national level. You can always reach out to us if there are opportunities that you have that we should be seizing.
And Matt, if I could just chime in there, I know that I knew that this was a success in Maine, so I'm glad that Brian chimed in there to respond to Scott. But this is particularly successful for radio with state broadcasting associations, and there are a number of ways to do that, both with recordings that already exist or going to folks with scripts. So if that's something that folks haven't tried, I know that particularly in Maine and in a few other states, some of our commission friends have had success with that. So that might be something for folks to look into. So great tip, Scott.
Yeah, and that reminds me, Sam, one of the things also in our box folder on our social press kit is a radio PSA that's available for download and use there. So for those that have connections to radio and want to use that, that is available for you. We've got a question in here from Emily. Thank you for investing at the national level. Thanks, Emily. We're excited to, with our new brand, again, bringing everybody into the fold and making sure we have a clear message to the public is how we're going to make it so that AmeriCorps is no longer the best kept secret and more of a household name. So we're glad folks see the vision there. Let's see, do you anticipate the agency will do a PSA like this every 1 to 2 years? Yeah, I think PSAs are what we consider to be sort of normal business for us. So just depending on the landscape of what's going on and initiatives, it may change the framework, but I think we try to do it every 1 to 2 years and as a way to refresh our message and stay relevant, making sure that it's, capturing those target audiences that we're trying to reach and helping you all do that locally. So I can't predict the future on when the next one will be, but I do know that it's definitely something we prioritize in OEA. All right, so we're just at about the time where we need to transition. So thank you for all of the folks that jumped on. We're gonna ask that if you're not with our state commission, group that you jump off and we will transition to our PSA. And any other questions you can